The pressure outside the Leviathan was unimaginable, a crushing, silent weight that could flatten a battleship. Inside, the three-person crew felt only the hum of life support and the faint thrum of the sub's advanced thrusters. Dr. Eris Thorne, a marine biologist whose wild theories often bordered on obsession, peered intently at the sonar screen, his face lit by its green glow. "Almost there, Captain. Another 200 meters to the Abyssal Scar. Deeper than any human has ever gone in this region." His voice, usually animated, was hushed with a reverence bordering on awe. Captain Ben Carter, a man whose weathered face told tales of 1,000 storms, gripped the controls, his eyes scanning the myriad of gauges. "Aye, Dr. Thorne, and let's hope we don't find anything that wishes we hadn't." His tone was stoic, but a faint line of tension etched itself between his brows. He'd seen enough of the sea's unpredictable nature to respect its deepest secrets. Beside them, Dr. Chloe Vance, the mission's pragmatic geologist, double-checked the structural integrity readings. "Hull stress is nominal, Captain, but the seismic activity down here is unusual. Not tectonic, not volcanic. It's almost rhythmic." Her brow furrowed in concentration, a hint of unease in her voice. They were exploring a newly discovered, unusually deep trench off the coast of Scotland, a geological anomaly that had baffled satellite surveys. The submersible, the Leviathan, was a marvel of engineering. A spherical titanium shell, reinforced with layers of advanced composites, designed to withstand pressures that would liquefy bone. Its array of external lights pierced the absolute darkness outside, illuminating fleeting glimpses of bizarre, bioluminescent deep-sea life, ghostly jellyfish, fish with glowing lures, and strange, alien-like crustaceans. They reached the bottom of the trench, a vast, flat plain of black silt, stretching into the inky abyss. The depth gauge read 10,994 meters, a new record for this uncharted region. "We're here," Eris breathed, his face pressed against the thick viewport, his breath misting on the cold glass. "The Abyssal Scar. And look," he pointed a trembling finger. In the distance, a faint, ethereal light pulsed, not the familiar bioluminescence of creatures, but something vast, diffuse, and strangely geometric. It seemed to emanate from the very floor of the trench. "Energy readings are off the charts, Eris," Chloe reported, her fingers flying across her console. "And the hydrophones are picking something up, a low-frequency hum, too consistent for natural phenomena." Eris was ecstatic. It's a new ecosystem, perhaps chemosynthetic vents, creating a unique environment. He activated the external manipulators, preparing to collect samples. But as they approached the pulsating light, the hum intensified, vibrating through the sub's hull, a subtle tremor that resonated in their teeth. And then the singing began. It wasn't a song in any human sense. It was a complex symphony of sound, starting as a faint, melodic pulse, then layering with other frequencies, high-pitched whistles, deep, resonant thrums, and something else, something that felt like a vibration directly in their minds. It was beautiful, yet profoundly unsettling, an alien choir performing in the crushing silence of the deep. "What in God's name is that?" Ben muttered, his knuckles white on the controls. The sub's internal lights flickered, the comms crackled with static, and the pressure alarms blared for a split second before dying. It's communicating," Eris whispered, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and awe. "It's a form of bioacoustic language. This is incredible." He tried to record it, but his equipment was glitching, the data corrupted. Chloe, however, felt a growing dread. The singing wasn't just sound, it was a presence. It felt like it was trying to enter her mind, to unravel her thoughts. She felt a cold, creeping sensation, like tendrils of sound wrapping around her consciousness. As they spent hours in the trench, observing the pulsating light and listening to the escalating symphony, the isolation began to truly set in. Miles of crushing darkness above them, an unknown abyss below. The singing became a constant companion, a pervasive presence that filled the sub, bypassing their ears and resonating directly in their brains. Sleep became impossible. The singing was too loud, too insistent. They started to experience vivid, disturbing hallucinations. Eris saw intricate, glowing patterns on the sub's walls, patterns that seemed to shift and writhe with the rhythm of the symphony. He became convinced that the entity was trying to share its knowledge, its ancient wisdom. He started muttering in response to the singing, his words becoming increasingly disjointed and obsessive. Chloe saw fleeting, impossible shapes outside the viewport, colossal, geometric forms that seemed to defy physics, appearing and disappearing in the inky blackness. She tried to rationalize them as optical illusions, but her mind was fraying. The singing filled her with a profound sense of despair, a crushing loneliness that wasn't her own. She started to doubt her own memories, her own identity. Was she Chloe Vance, or just an echo in this vast, dark symphony? Ben, the stoic captain, was hit hardest. He became withdrawn, his eyes haunted. He'd stare blankly at the viewport, muttering old sailor superstitions about leviathans and kraken. The singing seemed to amplify his deepest fears, twisting them into terrifying realities. He started to see his deceased wife, her face contorted in agony, her voice calling his name from the depths, a sound only he could hear. His hands, usually so steady, began to tremble uncontrollably. "It wants us to join it," Eris whispered one cycle, his eyes wide and unblinking, fixed on the pulsing light outside. "It's a collective consciousness, a grand, unifying force. We must become part of the symphony." He reached for the sub's comms, intending to open a channel to broadcast their presence, their minds, to the entity. Chloe, despite her own mental torment, saw the danger. Eris was completely consumed. The entity wasn't inviting them. It was assimilating them. It was a parasitic intelligence feeding on their minds, their consciousness, slowly drawing them into its own alien existence. The singing was its method of consumption. "No, Eris!" Chloe screamed, lunging for the comms panel, her voice raw with desperation. "It's not communication. It's an attack." Just then, the sub shuddered violently. A deep, resonant thrum, unlike anything they had heard before, vibrated through the hull, a sound that seemed to come from all directions, from the very fabric of the deep. The internal lights flickered and died, plunging them into absolute darkness, save for the eerie, shifting bioluminescence outside and the terrifying, deafening symphony in their heads. A pressure alarm blared, then another. A hairline crack appeared on the main viewport, spiderwebbing outwards. The sub was groaning, its titanium shell protesting under an immense, unnatural force. Something was actively trying to breach the sub or pull them deeper into the abyss. Through the fractured viewport, in the flickering, alien light, Chloe saw it. Not a creature, not a physical being, but a colossal, shifting mass of light and shadow, an impossible geometry that seemed to defy 3 dimensions. It was vast, ancient, and utterly alien. It pulsed with the rhythm of the symphony, a living, resonating entity of sound and pressure. It was the source. It was the Abyssal Symphony itself, a being of pure energy and consciousness, and it was trying to absorb them. Ben, his face pale with terror, tried to initiate an emergency ascent. He slammed his hand on the controls, but the sub refused to respond. The thrusters whined, then died. They were trapped, held fast by an unseen, immense power. Eris, his eyes glazed over, was now humming along with the symphony, a grotesque imitation of the alien melody. He was completely lost, his mind absorbed. Chloe knew this was it. They were going to be consumed. But then, a desperate thought sparked in her mind. If the entity thrived on sound, on its symphony, perhaps it could be repelled by a chaotic, disruptive sound. A sound that wasn't part of its harmony. She remembered the emergency sonic disruptor. It was a last resort device designed to create a localized, high-frequency sonic blast to clear debris from the sub's path. It was located in a sealed compartment near the rear of the sub. Fighting against the overwhelming mental assault of the symphony, which now felt like 1,000 needles piercing her brain, Chloe stumbled towards the rear compartment. The sub was tilting, groaning, the air thick with the smell of ozone and fear. The fractured viewport was now a spiderweb of cracks, threatening to shatter. She fumbled for the compartment latch, her fingers numb. The symphony intensified, trying to break her concentration, filling her mind with terrifying whispers and impossible images. She saw flashes of her own life, her memories being torn away, absorbed into the vast, alien consciousness. With a desperate cry, she tore open the compartment and pulled out the disruptor. It was a heavy, cylindrical device, cold and metallic in her trembling hands. She aimed it at the viewport at the colossal, shifting entity outside. She slammed her hand on the activation button. KRAKOM. A deafening, piercing shriek ripped through the sub, a sound so raw and violent it seemed to tear the very fabric of space. It was not a symphony. It was pure, unadulterated noise, a chaotic blast of frequencies designed to disrupt. The effect was instantaneous and cataclysmic. The symphony outside shrieked, a sound of agony and rage that was almost physical. The colossal entity recoiled, its impossible geometry flickering, distorting, then rapidly shrinking away from the sub. The oppressive pressure on the hull lessened. The cracks on the viewport seemed to momentarily seal. The sub shuddered violently. Then, with a groan of its own, the thrusters whined back to life. Ben, his eyes wide and disoriented, grasped the controls and, with a desperate surge of power, initiated the emergency ascent. The symphony faded, replaced by a lingering, painful ringing in their ears. The bioluminescence outside became sparse, then vanished as they ascended through the layers of the deep. They made it back to the surface, battered but alive. The Leviathan was severely damaged, its hull scarred, its systems fried. They were rescued by a waiting research vessel, their bodies weak, their minds reeling from the ordeal. Their story was met with disbelief. The damaged sub was attributed to a previously uncharted hydrothermal vent explosion. The symphony, the entity, the mental assault, all dismissed as hypoxia-induced hallucinations, a collective breakdown under extreme pressure. The abyssal scar was declared off-limits, deemed too unstable for further exploration. Dr. Eris Thorne was institutionalized. He never stopped humming the alien echoes, his mind lost in the Abyssal Symphony. Dr. Chloe Vance continued her geological research, but she never looked at the ocean the same way again. She carried the profound silence of the deep within her, a constant reminder of the vast, terrifying unknowns that lurk beneath the surface. Captain Ben Carter never piloted a sub again, his weathered face now permanently etched with a haunted, distant look. And sometimes, late at night, when the world was quiet, Chloe would feel a faint, rhythmic vibration in her bones, or hear a whisper of a melody that was not quite human, not quite natural. A chilling reminder that some echoes, once heard, can never truly be forgotten, and some horrors, once disturbed, might only be waiting for the world to fall silent again, for their symphony to resume.